Good morning. It is Wednesday, the 17th of June 2020, which makes this episode 17 of Notes from a Scottish Author with me, Barry Hutchison, aka JD Kirk. I'm back in my office again today. It's not a particularly nice day, it's a bit grey out there, but my hay fever is absolutely killing me today. You can probably tell by looking at my eyes, which are horrendously itchy. So I'm in my office, it's bright and early, and I'm cracking on with some writing today. But before then, I thought I would record today's video. We're now 17 days into the 100-day challenge. As I said, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, I've started tracking all my calories, and I can feel myself losing a bit of weight. So it'll be interesting come day 20 when I do the next weigh-in to see if I have indeed lost some weight. But today we're going to do another writing tip. We've covered characters. I mean, when I say covered, we could have a year of writing tips on character, but we've covered that. We've covered, what else did we do? Opening sentences. That was yesterday. Today I thought I'd talk a bit about plot and a very simple way that you can plot your own stories. And it's a method that the late great Tommy Dombivand came up with. When we were making plans, we used to deliver writing workshops in schools, and we would always bounce our ideas off each other and would use different things we'd come up with. So things I'd come up with, Tommy would use in some schools because he was based down in England. Some things he'd come up with, I'd use up in schools up here in Scotland. So we kind of worked quite closely together in really all aspects of our careers. The Space Team series and all that was all bounced off Tommy beforehand. So so it's a method he called the BAD method of creating a plot. And basically what you do is you take a piece of paper. I should have had one prepared like a prop, like in Blue Peter, but I don't. So take a piece of paper, down the left hand side of that paper write the initials BAD, and these are going to be your plot points. And then where you've written the B, finish the word bad. So you now have bad going across the way, bad going down the way. At the letter A of bad, in your vertical one, complete the word awful. And D, I usually ask kids in schools, I say, what do you think the D stands for? And I get everything from dead to donkey. Very rarely do they come up with the correct answer, which is disaster. It's a disaster point of your story. And the way this works is you can break down pretty much any story into these three plot points. Normally there are thousands, or not thousands, but dozens more plot points in there as well. But these three are quite a good, simple way of breaking them down. So in a crime novel, for example, bad is when a murder happens. There's a body has been found. Awful would come kind of midway through your story. And that's when something worse than that happens. In terms of the story narrative, it's worse anyway. So say the detective has got the wrong suspect, or the suspect they think is the murderer turns out to have a cast iron alibi, and they're back to square one. And then disaster is a point in the story when things can't get worse narratively. So let's say a junior officer has been taken by the killer, and there's now a frantic rush to save them before they're murdered themselves. So these three kind of plot points can be applied to pretty much any story ever written. You can look at them and go, okay, there's the bad thing that kind of generally triggers the story off, the event that kicks the story into action. Awful is about midway through when there's a twist and a reveal that throws things on its head. So in this case, in the detective fiction case, the person they thought was their suspect number one has now been proven not to be. It can sometimes in detective fiction be there's another murder has happened which has thrown them off the scent completely, but something happens which is, in terms of the story, in terms of your character getting what they want, which remember is unveiling the killer, is worse than that initial plot point. So something bad has happened, the murder, and obviously we know that in reality a murder is worse than making a mistake in terms of who you're arresting. But in terms of the story, in terms of that character, the detective getting what they want, apprehending the murderer, then having the wrong guy, back to square one, is worse narratively speaking. And then disaster is that point when everything's come to a head. It's right before the conclusion. It's not the conclusion to the story. The story doesn't end in a complete downer with your, a supporting character being kidnapped or someone else being killed or whatever it may be. It's just before the conclusion to the story. So it's kind of, in screenwriting terms, it's right at the end of Act 2 going into Act 3. And Act 3 is the part when they figure out exactly who's done it, they find where the killer is, and they catch them. So Bad Awful Disaster is quite a good way of plotting out a story. It can be used for any kind of story you choose to write. It can be science fiction, it can be horror, it can be comedy, whatever it is. But any story where the main character has a driving goal, that Bad Awful Disaster is quite a good way of breaking the plot down. And thanks to Tommy Dombavand for coming up with it and letting me shamelessly steal it for all these years. So that's pretty much it for the writing tip today. I'm going to go and take some antihistamines and cry for the next while. I will be back tomorrow with it's going to be a writing tip, but it's going to be a more general writing tip about having a writing career, if that's what you're interested in. And we'll see what else is happening tomorrow that I can talk about. And then Friday, of course, is Q&A Friday. So if you have any questions you would like to ask for me to answer, because that's the whole point of questions, then leave them in the comments on this video and one of the other videos. I will have a quick scour through on Friday and then do a live Q&A session, I think, and answer the questions then. So that's it. Thanks for now. See you tomorrow.